Hello, everybody. This is Nuoance, and we're finally here. We're finally talking about what is my favorite thing on this godforsaken earth. And, you know, you may not be here because you actually wanted to listen. Maybe you were just working and you saw the video and you're like, oh, I listen to your video when I work. And good on you, because really, that's all my videos are for. It has been not super long since the last recording, but long enough for me to really feel the repercussions of all those drink jokes I made. So, let's get into this topic and talk about what I believe is literally the closest thing to fan-made perfection that you can get ever. Now, before I can get into the actual game itself, I need to go with a little bit of more of a backstory. The reason I didn't bring this up in the last video is because it has nothing related to the other 3 games that we talked about. Instead, this is Hetalia mixed with a popular old indie horror game known as Ao Oni. Now, if you know Ao Oni, or if you don't know Ao Oni more accurately, Ao Oni is a horror game where 4 kids are locked in a house and a demon is there trying to kill them. The game blew up. If you were, like I said, back in the 2010s, 11s era, if you were into YouTube, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, I'm sure Markiplier, everyone was playing it. Anybody who was really trying to be somebody was playing Ao Oni. It had a movie, it had anime, it probably has merch. If it doesn't, then it needs to have merch. It was fantastic. I personally have played every single version of Ao Oni. The only thing I haven't seen is the movie because it's only in Japanese and it's... Look at that thing! That thing's terrifying! I don't want to watch that! I'd rather deal with this weird looking dude. There was a serious glow up and I don't know if I liked it. The ironic part is actually the anime was very similar to Hetalia in the take of it's a very dark game, but they turned it into comedy, and they were in 5-minute segments of just the characters interacting with each other. In regards to Ao Oni as well, Heta Oni is not the only Ao Oni related game. There are a lot of other ones that took the ideas of this game and changed it into something different, something more towards their liking. And the reason is the exact same reason for Hetalia. The game is very open. The characters are very 2D, and because of that, you are able to kind of implement your own characters and your own personality to add on to the personalities of these other guys. And it was just, it was very simplistic, it was very fun, and it wasn't shit your pants scary. Is the simplest way to say it. It was still very creepy and unsettling, and there's one part in the game when you're hiding in a basement and you lock the door, and when you lock the door, there's like a jail cell. The Oni comes up and grabs the handlebars and starts shaking them. And I don't know if it was just me, but the more I did that, the more violent the shakes became and the longer it took him to shake it before he gave up. It was scary. I was terrified of that game. I don't even know where to begin with the game. It was, play it. Just play it. Just there are a lot of puzzles in the game that I loved. They were not too complex, but they were also not baby food style. And it's because of Heta Oni that got me into Ao Oni that actually got me into finding YouTubers in the first place. I used to never watch YouTube before any of this because I didn't really see a point to it. I wasn't really interested. I got my fan fictions and I used YouTube for my anime. I didn't need anything else. But then Heta Oni, I found out was based off a game called Ao Oni. I was like, what is Ao Oni? I look up and I find this guy named PewDiePie and was like, who's this? And he was funny. And I was like, whoa, people play video games on YouTube? That's a thing people do? And I watched and I've still been watching since. Not PewDiePie so much, sorry. I just kind of lost interest as time went on, but other YouTubers, Seedanners, for example. Once again, where you can watch Heta Oni is on Sotet AG's channel. They have all of the episodes subtitled in, I don't know about all of them, but in 11 languages. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you did an amazing job. Did I say that in the last video? But yeah, All 17 and a half parts are on Sotet AG's channel. Go ahead and give it a look if you want to. This video, since it is strictly about Heta Oni, is going to have spoilers. So if you want, go watch all those first, and then come back to this. Or just watch it, and then you'll know some spoilers, and you can go back to it. I don't care. I'm not your mom. I ain't say what you do. You do what you want to do. I said yesterday that this was my New Year's Eve and New Year's Day video combo, and it's related to a tradition that I do. And now I'm going to talk about that tradition. Heta Oni is what made me have a friendship, start expanding my anime horizons, got me into finding YouTubers that play games, so it got me into gaming in a way. And it did a lot for me. A lot more than I realize, I think. And so, because of that, I like to start and end my year watching Heta Oni. So December 31st, 2020 to December 32nd, 2020 is related to Aoni and Heta Oni and just my love for it. And this comes at a price because, like the other fan games, it ended without any chance of being revived. And that is for a much more serious reason than the others, to my knowledge at least. I mentioned in my last video that people would make stories that I felt like were romanticizing the tsunami of 2011. Unfortunately, the creator of Heta Oni was in some way involved in that tragedy, and for a fan game that is completely about death, they did not want to get involved with any more death, understandably. So they canceled the series. Time went on, years went by, and I overheard when doing my yearly check last year that they had shown interest in the series again, but they wanted to work on other projects. And unfortunately, because anytime they start a new project, people would harass them over Heta Oni, they have permanently canceled the project with no chance of revival because of just the toxicity that people were giving them. That really upsets me because it's just like the whole problem with Cyberpunk. People were complaining about the game needing to come out. But because the game couldn't push back any further due to complaints, they made it come out, and it wasn't to everyone's expectations. If somebody wants to work on something, especially if it's a fan-related thing, you are not entitled to it. You're not obligated to what they are making. And if for some reason they decide to stop, that is completely their choice. It sucks. I'm still upset about it. I would have loved to know. I have theories out of the wazoo that I wanted answered. But you have to respect the person's time and well-being. If they're working themselves halfway to death for this stupid show that you're gonna forget about later on, because let's be honest, it's weird that I still care about the show as much as I do. It's not what every fan thinks. There are a few probably, but everyone has that one thing that they're really, really passionate about. But that doesn't mean everyone's passionate about that one thing. So you have to understand that although it had such a big impact on you, you are still not entitled to answers. If there's no ending to something that you enjoyed, make your own ending. It may not be the canonical one, it may not be what everyone wanted, but it'll at least make you happy, in a way. Sometimes. That's what I did. I ended up, when Heta Oni ended, I have my own theories, and while I would love for them to be answered, I just, in my mind, said this is what I think happened. This is probably what happened, and maybe I'll never know, but that's what I'll go with. The fans' response to Heta Oni, ignoring all of the people who were extremely toxic to the poor creator, was even bigger than Roma Heta. It exploded. There are cosplay music videos. There are full-on animations. Somebody wrote or drew a manga. Like, they were making a Heta Oni manga, for God's sakes. This thing got so spiraled out of control, and in a good way, because people loved it. It was that perfect blend of everything they wanted that we talked about yesterday. It was dark. It had the characters that they wanted. It had the personalities that the characters had that matched them. It went over the actual nation story, but also took a break from being actual nations. They still had these history battles brought up, but they weren't the main focus. People could focus on these characters as if they were actually in the story, but not in the same way that Hetalia had. It was literally everything that fans wanted for Hetalia. And that is why it got so big. The story is also just like the original. World Summit meeting. Everyone decides to go see this weird house that's nearby. And when they get there, they get locked in. They get separated. And this guy is going around killing them all. Or trying to, more accurately. The whole plot of the story is them just trying to escape. And simplicity really works in this story, and that's also another good part about it, is it isn't super over complex. But as the story gets on, it gets more and more and more and more complex. And we were at a point in the story when it ended where it was about to get really wild. And I don't even want to know what was going to happen there. I am going to be going into spoilers now for a big portion of this video, but once again, if you want to watch it without spoilers, go ahead and watch it. If you just don't care and you want to just listen to me ramble drunkenly passionately about what I like about it, then here we are. You know, this is going to be a casual day, so I'm going to lay down for the rest of this video, and we're just going to have, like, you know, heart-to-heart, like buddies, like pals, like friends, late at night, talking about our dreams and aspirations. But instead of dreams and aspirations, I'm talking about a fucking fan game from 2010 that's discontinued. So we got that going for us, at least, am I right? The thing I like about the characters is just the fact that they seem really in character for me. One of the biggest gripes I had with Heta Quest is because the characters didn't really seem like how I feel like they would have acted if they were the original source. And once again, I talked about, well, this is because it's an alternate universe, it doesn't really matter. And when you see something that's kind of out of character, like blatantly out of character, like let's talk My Little Pony, the movie, out of character, Twilight Sparkle would have never acted that way, that is not my Twilight Sparkle, then it becomes a little bit, you lose your immersion a little bit. Heta Oni really capitalized on making their characters hyper accurate. Like, I did an in-depth character study probably 2 years ago, maybe. It's been a long time. And all the characters really matched their personalities to me. If we wanted to be really, like, nitpicky, I guess one moment I found a little odd is when China finds Japan's burnt clothes and thinks that it's dried blood, but it's actually tomato. I don't think tomatoes look like dried blood, but that's really getting nitpicky and kind of stupid over a silly joke. Continuing on with the story is pretty much, you find out later on that Italy has been turning back time, and he has been in this time line for a long time. But I don't even know how to encapsulize how much I loved these characters. And that was my biggest thing, as I said, is the characters themselves were just, the personalities were on par. As stated previously, Italy's been going from timeline to timeline, and you can tell right off the bat that they seem a little off, but you can't pinpoint what. And that's the big thing. That's the big thing with foreshadowing, is a big problem people have with foreshadowing is they make it too obvious. A good example is in Heta Hazard. Spoiler for that is Germany falls into water that is contaminated, and you connect the dots almost immediately, but they decide to mention at least 5 separate times before it's actually brought up that Germany could be infected. And for me, I just feel like that's too much foreshadowing. You should have just a little bit. And that's what they did really well with Italy. While Prussia and Germany, because you start out with only Japan, Prussia, Germany, and Italy, while they're hiding, Italy's roaming around freely. And out of all of them, it would have usually been in the reverse. Germany and Prussia would have been the ones that would have taken the lead, and Italy's walking around. And the reason they do hide is, one, Prussia is strong around other characters, I feel at least. And so when he's by himself, he really isn't sure where to go next. And it worked really well for the character. I just loved it. And Germany especially, I felt perfectly encapsulated his character because he was always pushed to being the guy that follows the books. If he has a plan, he can continue forward. And if he knows what's happening, he can continue forward. Knowledge is power. So when he's put in a situation that he knows nothing about, he's going to panic. And there's always like a way to reference what to do in a situation, but there's never going to be a reference to what you do when a demon's chasing you around and trying to kill everyone you love. So the fact that he's so scared and unable to know what to do, but then finds something that he can do, which is building a safety shelter, which does come from a manual, a book, how to, build something, I felt was really, really good. And Japan just gives no fucks, is the simplest way to put it. He does not care. So between the three of them, Italy's the one wandering around. And the reason Italy can wander around is because Italy's been there long enough and he's emotionally died inside from trauma that it doesn't matter to him anymore. He's gone. He's just out there. He all he remembers is this life of living in this house. And it's killing him on the inside. I could actually sit here and talk for an hour about each character and how they perfectly encompass how I feel like they would have acted in the situation, but there's really no need. The next thing I'm going to talk about is in terms of in Hetalia, each character has their human name. And most people use these human names either in like Roma Heta, they just use them automatically, or in other fandoms, it's AUs. So like Heta Quest, it's an AU and that's where their human names are from. The way that Heta Oni deals with it is absolutely perfect. The whole idea is in the middle of the safe house, one night, they decide to make a promise that they will have some kind of party where there will be no political reasons, no wars, no bringing up history affairs. They will all get together and they will all just enjoy themselves as a celebration for escaping, because Italy's lost most of his memories from the real world and only remembers times from this house. And it was a really cute thing because they bring up, we can't make that kind of contract because if anybody comes to this house and finds it, it could cause a lot of problems. We can't use our nation names. So they make up human names so that people just have no idea even if they did find it. And I found this fantastic. It was a really nice way to organically bring their names into the plot and still be them. It's a promise, and it brings those names so much more meaning, because now the names aren't just their human names, it's a symbol of peace. If they are referring to them as a human, then they are here for peace and not for any kind of treachery. The other cool thing that this fan game brings up is time travel, which is always iffy, You always have issues with it, making it work nicely, and Heta Oni really did it well, because it doesn't happen often. They end up being able to go back in time and actually use their resources to try and get some help. I don't fully still understand what they were doing, but the long and short is it was just a way to kind of show the other failed timelines and get a little bit more feels in there, which they really succeeded in doing. There's a lot of really sad deaths that you see, especially in the first timeline. And before you can even go back into time, as you were going through the fan game and breaking the clocks, Japan has been getting little bits of history, kind of. And at first he thinks these are visions of things to come if he fails, like, locking the door, everyone's gonna die, etc., etc. And he has images of rooms that he's never seen before. And there's a bunch of theories I can go on here, but the fact is that it was just a really cool way to integrate time travel and a mystery. And before you even knew that Italy was having these repeats in times, he's super aggressive towards you as the player, as Japan, because you're starting to realize that there's something weird going on. I mean, obviously there's something weird going on, but something even more weird going on. And it's because of these visions themselves that end up actually saving Italy's life. One of the key lines in this story is England says, "I don't have much magic. What's the use? I can only hold them for 2 seconds. I'm sorry, I'm such a burden," or something like that. And America says, "If 2 seconds is all it takes to save someone's life, then you are not a burden." And there are so many quotable lines, which is another big thing for me. Is with the other games, there wasn't really anything that I felt was super quotable. There may have been, but none that come to mind. In Heta Oni, there is a ton. There are moments that really impact you as a watcher and really make you just feel. And I love that. I loved it. This has turned into a therapy session, and I'm so sorry. This is so informal of me. And you know what? It's the new year. New year, new me. We're being informal today. While the original game, Ao Oni, doesn't have any fighting, you can't fight the demon, Heta Oni does. And I actually do feel like they did a really good job with this. Because, like, the whole thing is, there are a lot of scenes that are impactful specifically because you could fight. There were scenes where if, you know, as the fight went on, you could tell that you're losing, and the show was actually working with it. And I would like to mention, I say you as in you're actually able to play, and you're not. This game is non-playable. There are people who have made fan versions of Heta Oni that you can play, and I have played, but the original source is unavailable. But that's pretty much it for today. I mean, I know this is a lot smaller than yesterday's video, and it's not going to be as impactful with history and all that, but I really just wanted to talk about that. I just wanted to talk about my tradition with y'all. The thing that means the most to me, my longest standing tradition compared to any other tradition I have. I've always secretly wanted to have like a Heta Oni themed birthday party or something. Like that's how old this thing is. But I also know if I did, it'd probably scare the shit out of me, because like, what would you even do for that? Have a giant Steve in the background? The fans have called him Steve, but like, I couldn't do much about it. So I'm kind of glad that nothing came from it. But thank you all these past few days for listening to my ramblings of Hetalia. Like, straight up. And thank you. I have a lot of thank you. I just thank you for taking the time. If you're a subscriber, I really appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, or even not, if you're just watching, I want to say thank you. Especially if you're a subscriber, though. I'm sorry. Viewers, I love you too, but subscribers, I double love you. You get like double love points. And just, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Every time I get a notification that I get a subscriber or a comment or anything, it sends me over the moon. It really does mean a lot. I read every single one. I love the interaction. I love being able to talk to you guys. And if I could do it all day, I would. Like, straight up, I enjoy it immensely. And I'm sorry you had to listen to a semi-drunk Nuo rambling about a game 10 years ago that all canceled from a show that's outdated at this point. But here we are. And I also want to thank my friends for, you know, putting up with my Heta Oni bullshit, especially Maju Studarts. If you haven't followed her, go follow her. We will actually be returning to this particular story later on, because a story with Maju and I is we didn't meet over Heta Oni, but we bonded over Heta Oni. And we wrote our own fanfic for it. And the reason we haven't recorded or published anything yet is because I need to just reread it and make sure to like touch anything up that seems out of place. But after that, we're gonna be recording, and that'll be interesting. But she's the one that made my 2 pictures for today and yesterday's videos. If you like her art style and you like animation with really interesting characters, go follow her channel, go subscribe, be a pal. I know we're not allowed to say it on Twitch anymore. We could say it here. I'm a big Maju simp. I'm the biggest Maju simp. Nobody can out-simp me. Like, straight up. Sorry, can't do it. She has unbelievable talent, and she's worked so hard for it. And I will support her till the day I die. And if you're interested in these fan games, give Sotet AG a follow too, or subscribe. As usual, thank you all so much for watching this video. Please subscribe, comment maybe. Like I said, I love talking to you guys. Today's question, I don't even know. Hold on. Today's question is pretty simple. What is your New Year's resolution if you have one? What is your New Year's tradition if you have one? Let me know in the comments. Thank you once again for watching, because I haven't said that enough already. As usual, drink your water, eat your broccoli, and have a good year. See y'all in the next video.